Up and at 'em on a Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, as we get you going. Depending on how you wanted to treat the night, Preston Thorne, you either got fully invested in the women's tournament or you detoxed from basketball and maybe you went down another path and just got ready for what is about to be another massive, massive sports weekend. There will be a South Carolina baseball series that we'll have to break down a little bit later on this morning. We'll start with a big game tonight.
A big game?
I'm setting you up to overdo it.
A big game? They played a lot of big games. They play in the SEC. They tell us all these games are big games, right? Well, this game is not just a big game. It's the biggest game.
There you go.
The biggest game of the season. The biggest game of Paul Maneri's comeback.
Okay.
The biggest game of Monty Lee's career.
Well, I look forward to hearing that one. Okay, so tonight sets that
Ethan Petrie. Game's huge.
Well, okay, we'll circle back to that. Tonight.
Ray Tanner, it's huge for you.
Tanner's on a beach somewhere, man. We'll get into it right.
Jeremiah Donati, biggest baseball game of your career, sir.
We'll get into a lot of that this morning and roll from there. That'll set up another weekend series that's going to be a monster with Tennessee. So, again, last night maybe you detoxed a little bit from South Carolina baseball. Maybe you detoxed a little bit from the NCAA basketball tournament as we now get set for a monster Sweet 16 Elite 8, Preston Thorne. And yesterday, well, at least as of last count, as of about 9 o'clock last night, yesterday, the transfer portal, they flipped on the switch, the little buzzing, the circle lit up in a bright blue light, and players flooded in. 700, as of 9 o'clock. I have no clue where it's at. I have to check and see if Jeff Borzillo has put out a new tweet. But as of about 9 o'clock last night, 700 players had run through the portal.
You think the transfer portal is shut down? Like it's too much traffic in the portal. It's just we can't take it. It's too
Guys
much.
are bumping into each other, and they're trying to find they're going to get flipped around.
Where you go? I'm going to different ways. Maybe it reminds you of those old Black Friday clips when people used to be waiting to go into Best Buy.
Yeah.
That's how folks were waiting to get into the transfer portal, just running up against the door, trying to go get that new spot at a mid-major or something like that.
Feel like that was probably it.
They're crossing directions. You going to the ACC, I'm going to the SEC mid-major. A lot of stuff happening. Coaches are getting passed by.
Everybody's all confused right now. Nobody knows what exactly is taking place. But 700 players. South Carolina yesterday, they've had another player enter the transfer portal, and we probably need to get into that a little bit this morning as the Gamecocks' portaling season is now wide open. But maybe you detoxed a little bit from basketball. Maybe you just detoxed in general because guess what? Coming up on Thursday, true opening day. Preston Thorne. Legitimately true opening day across Major League Baseball. So you got 2 days until we get to. Remember, we enjoyed it. I loved it. They played the Tokyo series last week, and you and I sat here and were able to take in 2 games, watch live baseball in the mornings. So the baseball season has technically gotten underway. It started, but coming up on Thursday, we get an American tradition, true opening day.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll have our Chop Talk coming back up. We'll have conversations about the Braves. We'll be talking about what you need to be looking out for in this marathon of the season. So I'm looking forward to having more conversations about it.
And then, of course, you got plenty of other things. As I mentioned, the women's tournament taking place. So we'll talk a little bit about that because significant news last night coming out of the Southern Cal basketball game. And we'll get into a little bit of that. Juju Watkins goes down with a torn ACL and is now out for the season. And I was on Twitter last night, and part of the discussion centered around, I put a tweet out about 700 players entering the portal, and somebody responded and was like, this is why it's hard to like men's basketball because there's no stability. It's hard to pull for your own team because kind of like we talked about this. The 2023-2024 men's team, that was an entity. That was a singular one-off thing. This past year, 2024-2025, this team that finished 2-15 in the SEC, you know what? That's a singular one-off entity. So we got the good where we saw one team and we knew exactly, we were impressed and we had fun. We saw another singular team that was not fun to watch and was awful. Guess what? Next year will be entirely different. It's like going to the box of chocolates. They're not all the same. You don't know what you're going to get.
It's true. That's true. So
that's the men's side. And I say that because the women's side, you have stability. You have a lot more stability. You don't have one and dones. You have most of the players sticking with their team. The teams that you see are generally, not always, generally, though, the same year to year to year.
Yeah, because the rules dictate that they do that. There's rules by both entities, the professional organization and the mainly by the professional organization that does not allow those women to go into the WNBA before certain age limits or time in college. And so, yeah, yes, they are staying, but it's not through a matter of like virtue. Because I would argue that Juju Watkins could have been in the NBA WNBA if it would have allowed.
Well, but the part about it is you don't see the transfer portal as active on the women's side. It's active. Don't get me wrong. It's not, but it's not. The transfer portal on the women's side has a lot more to do with the old ideas of transferring. Oh, I'm not playing. Yeah, I'll go. It's not like the guys' side, which is basically now turning into a 1-year free agency, and then let me hop back in and see what's going on. Yeah. So, again, a lot there from last night, but maybe you took the night off and you got ready because, again, starting tonight, we'll have the coverage for you. South Carolina and North Carolina getting going up in Charlotte. And we'll talk about this game a little bit because, it is a big one for South Carolina. You're in the midst of a very difficult run. And, Preston, we said this multiple times after the Clemson series, after they got swept by Clemson. Hey, Clemson's good. Clemson's really, really good. But guess what? You're about to play 8 or 9 other ball clubs, which equates out to about 25, 27 games against really good competition. And no offense to Clemson, they might be 6th or 7th on that list. This is what you signed up for. You have to play really good teams. And North Carolina will come into tonight's game ranked 21st. So actually on the list of teams that you've got to play against, North Carolina's one of the worst ones.
Yeah, they're on the bottom. they're on the lower level of that conversation. Yeah, I mean, one of my always concepts is when does a thing become a thing? Well, they're 1-8 against teams with
top 25.
Top 25. So is that a thing? This might become a thing. They have to go out and win this game tonight.
Yeah, just for the record, number 1, this is D1Baseballs.com ranking. Number 1, Tennessee rolls into town this coming weekend. You've already had a series against number 2, Arkansas, and as you just mentioned, unfortunately, we kind of know how that series went. Georgia currently is number 3 in the country. I don't remember Georgia ever being like, I think I remember at one time being at a Braves game at some point during the summer, and Georgia beat Oklahoma. This is like 90s. I mean, this is going way back. But Georgia beat Oklahoma for a national championship. But other than that, I don't remember Georgia being like this. Good news, South Carolina doesn't have Georgia on the schedule this year. They've already played number 6, Clemson. They've still got a series with number 8, LSU. You've played number 9, Oklahoma. You got a series, I believe, somewhere down here with number 11, Auburn. You get the point. Like, you need to win some of these games. You need to go out and take care of business, and that'll be difficult, but we'll see, and we'll talk more about that. Also yesterday, hey, look at that. They are practicing football over there.
I guess. We got some sound. They're going to tell us about things that are happening. So, yes, I posed the question yesterday, is spring ball actually happening? And according to the sounds that we have today, yes, it is.
You know, and we'll get into this because I said it last year after 5-7 that they needed to have the very quiet off season. I didn't want to see any of the videos. I didn't want to see any of the hide and go seek in the facility. I think they're doing it again this year. I think this is another sign of Shane Beamer kind of settling into his coaching role where recruiting will take care of itself. You always want to do some of the little social media stuff you do, but they are having a very quiet off season, which is perfect for this football program.
It worked last year. We'll see if it works this year. There might be different circumstances. We'll see how it works. I don't know if this is more of a trend, a national trend, but it does seem as if it is very quiet down there at the facility.
That's a good thing. We'll talk about that. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning. Speaking of which, when we come back, Mike Shula has a voice. Did you know that?
That's why I really just kind of want to listen to these clips and just get a little bit of a...
It took us a while to get to know Dow Loggins, and every other sentence was about what they did in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's hear what Shula has to say.
Start building a resume here on Mike Shula. We'll let you listen to a little bit of what he had to say. New Gamecock offensive coordinator Mike Shula talking yesterday. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll take it away. You don't have to worry about any of the aftercare. Absolute Glass and your insurance company will do that. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you could do that with new windows or mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Doesn't appear that we have any accidents out there right now, and certainly welcoming that this morning. And as far as your forecast goes, warm and breezy is what we're looking at today. 78 for the high, 74 tomorrow, 71 on Thursday before we get back up into the upper 70s. Could hit 80 by Saturday. Not any rain in the forecast, really, until about Sunday. But right now, it's a nice start. A little bit cooler than yesterday, 45 on 107.5 The Game.
6:17 as we get you up and get you going on a Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen as we spring practice is here. Spring baseball is here.
Is it?
We found out yesterday. Still haven't seen any videos, but that's fine. That's fine. And Mike Shula talking yesterday, Preston Thorne, and we got to hear Shula a little, I think once during December, kind of in an introductory press conference. We went, oh, okay, that's what he sounds like. Yesterday, though, we officially got to hear him. And let's hear what he had to say. 2 days of practice in the books, and he gave an assessment. Here's Mike Shula yesterday meeting with the media.
Wait. Can we hit pause? Can we hit pause? Let's do some show here. What do you think his assessment is?
Oh, everything's great. It's 2 days in.
Let's see, because have you heard this clip?
No.
I haven't heard it either. So let's try and figure out. What is Mike Shula's assessment?
Everything's going great.
Okay.
Installs smooth, easy. Lenore's looking good. Very pleased with the work ethic of the guys. Looks like they came back from winter in very good shape.
Okay. That's a good start right there. I would say guys are coming around, making some improvements at key positions, and the veterans are taking the reins.
Okay.
All right, let's see. All right, Jim, we're ready now.
Yeah, so it's number one, it's always good getting back on the field and being with the players and doing things we love doing. And I think the number one, the energy's been great. We've had a lot of guys that the whole mix, the guys that have been here, the guys that have come in from other schools, and then the freshmen, I think there's a really good urgency for guys to do their job right, to finish on every play. You know, I think it's, and one of the main reasons, I think we've got the right guys here, the mentality, guys that look, you know, that, again, it's 2 practices, self-starters, and then competition. You know, there's a lot of competition throughout, and I think that kind of brings out the best in everybody. So I still got a long way to go, but the first 2 days, I think that's been the first thing that stood out.
Okay. Feel like I was close.
He was close. He was close. A lot of energy guys, self-starters. Everybody's excited about the first 2 days of spring, which is pretty par for the course. That sounds about right.
What do you remember about early in spring practice? Like where they're at right now? Because not picking on you, but boy, your days were different. There was no social media. There wasn't a Justin King running around. This is in a way, this is a slight, Shane Beamer the last 2 years has done a slight throwback to the days of Alou Holtz, where there's less social media. We kind of just know that there's a spring game occurring at some point. We don't really know what's going on down there.
Yeah, in the deep hole, in the proving grounds over there. Yeah, it's kind of, there's not a lot of fanfare. There's not a lot of things happening around. There's no game that you're looking forward to. It feels like the doldrums of we're playing football to play football, because it doesn't seem like there's an actual goal out in front. You're not game planning for anybody like that. So there is a little bit of sense of a drudgery as you get through spring. But the first two days, you're kind of happy to put the pads back on. You're happy to go out there and play football, because you know what you're not doing? You're not in the weight room with those crazy conditioning coaches anymore. So you're actually playing football as opposed to just lifting weights to play football. So yeah, the spring practice is a welcome change.
Now, maybe it can be a little monotonous, especially when you're trying to install a new offense. I don't know if they're installing a new offense. Mike Shula was here. He helped Dow Loggins. He talked yesterday, though, about new installs on the offense. Let's hear him break down how he's doing things with the offense as opposed to what was being done last year.
Well, you know, like I think I've said this from earlier in the year, and maybe even towards the end of the bowl game, is we did a lot of really, really good things last year, and we want to continue to build on those. Now, whether or not it's the same terminology, the same thing, or it's different, those are the little things, but that we'll continue to coach. But I think that it's going to be a little bit of a combination of a little bit of what in my background, what we've done, and as well as keeping a lot of the good things that we did last year. Each and every year, regardless of, you want to kind of take a look at what you did well, build on it, keep it rolling, find different ways to do it. The stuff that you didn't do well, you want to ask yourself why. What can we do to make it better, tweak it, or do we want to get rid of it and spend our time on the other things? So, we're right in the middle of all of that right now.
I'm getting a sense for what we're going to get here. The picture is coming into focus. We're going to play one more clip here, Preston.
Let's do some more scouting reports.
I'm getting a sense here.
I like it.
I'm starting to get a sense of what we're going to get with a Mike Shula press conference, because you heard that right there.
This is about us figuring out who Mike Shula is.
There was a lot of words there.
A lot.
All right, here's the last piece. This is Mike Shula. Apologize, Jen. This is number 10. And this is, I tell you what, let's do this. Let's go. Let's see what we hear. Go with 9. Let's go with number 9. Guys who he's seeing things click with. All right. He's been here a year. He didn't just show up randomly in December and be like, all right, you guys do your stuff for the bowl game and then I'll be around. Who is he seeing things click with now?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. There's just a lot of guys right now that are. I don't know, if I named one, I'd have to name probably 10 or 15 of them. I just think that the competition, basically kind of across the board on the offensive line at the, really at the tackle positions, providing depth. We know that Josiah and Kason obviously are back as returning starters, but they still got to compete, and the guys coming in are competing with the guys inside at the guards and the center position. And then you talk about the. Even our wide receivers, guys that were here, JB and Nick last year compared to, or this year now compared to where they were last year, and the opportunity of even more playing time, and the running backs with Oscar and Jawan and Matt, all of a sudden, they were watching Rocket last year, and now all of a sudden they're presented with an opportunity to compete against each other and play. And then you got a Sewell coming in. So all that's been very refreshing, and I think we're seeing a lot of guys respond to the competition in a good way.
So when Mike Shula speaks, we will get a lot of words with very little context of what actually is occurring.
Expert stonewaller, I feel like we're going to get, because this is the spring. We haven't even gotten to the pressure season when we're game planning, so who knows what we're going to get. So, so we're trying to figure out who he is, because remember with Dow last year, it was about, the last 2 years, we kind of figured out, okay, now's going to be the NFL reference, right? We was waiting for it, he was going to drop it then. Then when we had the previous OC, he was going to tell you a lot of the things that he wanted to do, right? He's going to give you all of the he's going to give you all. So now we're trying to figure out who Shula is, and Shula's not going to give us much.
No.
Very vanilla.
A lot of the coaching keywords: competitiveness, competition, depth. There was some names, even though he said he wasn't going to name anybody. There was names sprinkled in.
But he said he wasn't going to name anybody because he had to name everybody, but then he named everybody because he had to name somebody. So, so Bill, when you heard that, the clip is titled "Guys Who Are Seeing Things Click."
This is why I wanted to go to that instead of the other one, because now you gotta really hone in. You've got to narrow maybe tell me that, hey, Lenoris is growing from year 1 to year 2. I think I really see him starting to click a little bit now that he is comfortable. He knows this is his spot. Maybe you go with a wide receiver and you say, boy, that Mazio Bennett, again, going from a freshman to a sophomore, he's been here. I really like his energy and attitude. It's really starting to come along. He's kind of becoming the leader of the wide receiver room. Maybe he would have mentioned Nick Harbor. Hey, Nick's been out here 2 full days of pure football. I'm seeing it click. Nope, we just got a bunch of names and a bunch of kind of like their competitiveness, and they're competing.
All right, competitive computers, computer competitors. All right, yeah. Cool. So we're learning a little bit more so about Shula than maybe we are about the team, which could give us some insight as to how the team will operate. And again, this is why I think this is really interesting, even this concept, because with the less access to the teams, if you talk about those old school Lou Holtz days, well, during those days, there were opportunities for open practices. There were opportunities for people to come out to open scrimmages. Those things are not available. And so we as fans, or we as media, or we as whoever, we are forced to take the coaches at their words. But the issue is when the coaches don't give us any words, we don't really have a lot to go by. We can't go by our own eyes because we're not allowed to go to practice anymore. We're not allowed to see these things. So I think this is a very interesting time for how spring ball is sold to the fans.
Well, again, I'm not. You've been a fan you've been a fan now for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen, but you were inside the Lou Holtz fandom. The Steve Spurrier spring era was unlike anything. Hey, it's wide open. Come on out. I'd have to take my chair out there. I was working for J.C. Sherbert in the Big Spur, and I'd have to sit there. I remember dozing off at a couple practices because they're fairly boring, like literally dozed off. There'd be 25 people milling about in the afternoon, and I'd be sitting there all of a sudden, it's a beautiful afternoon, and I was supposed to be giving updates, and the next thing you know, just got a little nap in because they're boring. Will Muschamp came in. We went back to complete top secrecy. Top secrecy, and if anybody even spoke, at least with Shane Beamer, we get access to other coaches as well. But very, very interesting to see how coaches nowadays go about handling spring practice. I mean, Preston, we're going such top secrecy that now spring games are being canceled. So 803-404-6100. Let's get up to the phone lines. David wants to weigh in this morning. David, how you doing? What's on your mind?
I'm doing all right. I hope y'all guys are doing well. Last year when Shula was named, I had a talk with a former player, and he was totally against and I tried to go into it with an open mind, but in between a game plan for the bowl game where Lenoris didn't run nowhere near as aggressively as what he did, and hearing his comments at the press conference saying he wanted him upright and wasn't going to be running 20 times a game, I got this gut feeling he's going to try to change Lenoris and end up making him a whole lot less effective. Take it off the air. Appreciate what y'all do. Have a good day.
I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's hit a break real quick so we're not cramming those thoughts in. We'll come back. We'll give our thoughts on that, and we'll listen to a little bit of Clayton White. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. I'm promoting it. I'm trying to make it mine. I'm trying to tell you that March is officially spring cleaning month. I don't think that's such a thing, but I'm going to work on it. It's a goal of mine now to make March official spring cleaning month, and nobody knows that better than Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning with their patented ZR water technology that cleans better than detergents while not leaving behind a sticky, soapy residue, so you can feel comfortable with the kids and the animals rolling around on the carpet this spring. And right now, they've got an incredible spring sale going on. Mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $119 plus a free hallway. You heard that right. 3 rooms of carpet clean for $119 plus a free hallway. Give them a phone call, 803-262-4020, or schedule online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards, is the right way to clean.
We have an accident, Colonial Drive near Lorick Avenue. Aside from that, traffic moving along fairly well this morning. Don't have any other accidents that are being reported at this time. It's going to be really nice today. Warm, breezy, 78, 74 tomorrow, 71 on Thursday, and then by Friday and Saturday, we get back up to about 79, 80 degrees for a couple days. Maybe some rain or thunderstorms rolling in on Sunday. But right now, it's a little bit cooler than yesterday, so do want a jacket to get you started. 45 on 107.5 The Game.
.635 as we get you up and get you going. Want to remind you about the 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic. This year we're partnering up with Lexington County Gamecock Club, and it will be occurring this Friday, March the 28th. We'll be out at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. You can call today and sign up and secure your foursome, 803-755-2000. Again, that's 803-755-2000. We're going to have a blast. It's going to be the best one yet. We're going to have sausage provided there or onion sausage for early morning breakfast. We'll have Hardee's providing a breakfast as well. Firehouse Subs providing lunch. Call today. Get signed up. Saki's Wine and Spirits will be providing early morning beverages. So call today and get registered. 803-755-2000. We're going to tee off at about 9:30. I'm doing the emceeing, so give or take a few minutes, given that my propensity to talk. Tee off about 9:30, and it is $400 per team. For those of you struggling to do math, at 6:36 in the morning, that's $100 per person. It's our 107.5 The Game golf tournament coming up this Friday. You can still get signed up today, 803-755-2000. So David called in and asked about Lenore Sellers rushing. Well, guess what? Mike Shula, let's learn a little more, Preston. He gets asked the question, Jen, this is going to be number 5, balancing Lenore's rush plays this year. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, so I just think getting back to the last question as well, the processing that every quarterback has to do every single play. The faster you can process and make good decisions with the football, the less you may have to run with the football. Now as we've seen last year, he's really he's a pretty good runner. So we don't want to take that ability away from him, and we want to enhance that. But we want to do it on our own terms, not because, well, maybe I didn't quite understand the read, or I didn't see this, or I'm late on doing that. Now I have to run. We want him to run because he wants to, not because he has to. I think there were some times where we did both last year, and he did a great job with that. But obviously we want to have him upright and throwing the football. So he's not going to be a running back where he's carrying it, 25 times a game. So, and that's part of his growing process.
Okay, there was some answers there.
All right, okay.
Took him a minute to get there.
Maybe it's just that they weren't asking the right questions. Maybe Shula gets really excited when you start talking quarterback play. Now he can get into the.
He got off to a slow start on that one and worked his way around.
He warmed his way up. All right.
What did you take away from that?
Okay, the big thing he said that I did think was interesting and piqued my interest was the idea of we want him to run when he wants to, not when he has to. Right? I do think that is because. At times, especially for a younger quarterback, sometimes their first instinct is, I don't want to get through my progression. The pocket feel like it's closing down on me. Let me use what I can trust as my legs. Maybe what he's saying here is now Lenore's knows that he has his legs, but maybe he knows he has those in his back pocket. I will use them if I have to, but maybe I can get one more read progression and get the ball out instead of relying on my legs, which I know I already have. That's in the bank. I would imagine this spring, if I was coaching him, and I'm not a quarterback coach, I would be totally limiting you will not run this spring. You will be working completely on your progressions, your reads, et cetera, because that's what you need to improve on.
my opinion on this is it's easy to say and do all that. Look, let me come back to this. This is why I think bowl games are important. This is why I actually just still think, and why I say they're now almost your spring game. Because it sounds, what that clip sounded like was the concept and the theory in the bowl game, but with a quarterback who didn't have enough time to learn it, right? Like, they tried it. Lenore Sellers tried it, but he didn't, you could tell, he didn't feel comfortable. So now they've got tape of, hey, Lenoris, in this situation, you could have taken off and run. Go ahead and do it next time. Hey, Lenoris, in this situation, probably get that one more read in. I think that's where the bowl game really comes in handy for the development of Lenore Sellers along with Mike Shula. And that's really, really important. I also think this, when you get to a game that truly matters, i.e. Virginia Tech on August 31st, if Lenore Sellers wants to run, and scrambles and takes off somewhere in a game where the win and the loss really, really do matter, I don't think Mike Shula is going to be calling down on the headset or whatever saying, don't do that anymore. That worked for us. Let's go with that. Rely on your instincts. 803-404-6100. That is a little bit of Mike Shula. Now let's flip it over. Jen, I apologize. Let's go to number 12. And let's hear our favorite defensive coordinator's opening statement. Haven't heard from him in a while. Clayton White yesterday. This is a tradition we have, unlike any other on this program. We always assess the opening statement from Clayton White. Here is him yesterday addressing the media.
Glad to be here again. 2025, obviously our first time here speaking with you guys, but it's been a nice, exciting 2 months. Just getting to know these new faces, exposing these guys to the Carolina football way, the Beamer way, and obviously make sure they understand the defense. How we want to do things, how we want to communicate, how we want to get things going. But besides that, it's been a great 2 weeks. Obviously, spring ball last week, practice 1 and 2. Like what we've seen, guys are hungry and eager to keep growing. So, any questions?
Oh, quicker. To the point. He did inform us it's 2025 in case we've missed that one.
Well, that's just a timestamp because he has to do that because every other one sounds exactly the same. So we don't know whether that was from 2025, 2024, what week of the season it is. So he has to timestamp that to make sure that we understand that this is the spring moving forward.
Good stuff from him. And certainly that he will be interesting. We'll play some more clips from him in terms of certain things. Second-year guys in the secondary. Also, there's some really good stuff on the linebacking room and Xavier Hardy. And we'll get to more of that this morning as we roll along here. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. We'll come back. We'll hear a little bit more from Clayton White in terms of replacing individuals with some depth and a little bit about the defensive line. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. 803-404-6100 as we slowly start to conclude hour number one. We'll get into more baseball next hour with J.C. Sherbert. Preston Thorne is ready to rub his hands together and declare tonight's game against North Carolina. Basically, if you missed the opening segment, if there is anybody affiliated with South Carolina, this is the biggest baseball game of Lamont Paris's baseball game. Yes, I know Lamont doesn't coach baseball, but Preston basically went through the entire South Carolina athletic organization and has put them on notice that tonight is the biggest game of the career for all of them.
Oh, they know. They know. They know.
So we'll get to that coming up in hour number two. Also talk some spring football with J.C. Sherbert. And yesterday, the basketball portal opening up, and wild experience. And we'll keep you updated on that. We were playing a little bit of Clayton White from yesterday. One of the things that he is having to do is replace individual production with depth. Let's see what he says here, because this always scares me. I remember being in a large group setting at a convention center or something with basically Lorenzo Ward saying the same thing many years ago after Jadeveon Clowney and a great secondary departed. All right, Coach White, what do you got to say about replacing individual production with depth?
Yes, I think, we had that conversation here as a defense is that we're going to take what happened last year and learn from it and use it to our best knowledge that we can make so we can put the best product on the field in 2025. Starting this spring, starting in our meetings, I do believe that, you do want to, the production is gone. Like, they're not walking back in here. So we're trying to take that step forward and understanding that let's learn from what most of us was here last year. So let's do a great job of learning of how we got there. We went through some bumps. We went through some valleys, but those guys kept fighting. They stayed together. They played as a team. They had fun. They communicated. They took pride in the details of the defense, and they took pride in the details of learning the offense and understanding what teams were trying to do to us. And I think that was the reason why we were successful last year. And, obviously I still say that, our offense did a really good job last year running the football and getting first downs. I think both of us were 10% better on third down percentage. We were 10% better. They were 10% better. They ran the ball almost 200 times. So that really helped. So it's a team thing, bro. So it really helps each other. So I think that helps a ton.
We got some statistics in there. I tell you what, let's get this clip in, and let's come back and cover it, because I want to ask Preston about this. One of the big reasons they were better, Preston, is they upgraded significantly at linebacker. And no offense to Stone Blanton, trying to go to the NFL now, and Grayson Howard, but the upgrade at linebacker with Demetrius Knight and Bam Martin Scott this past season, Debo Williams being a senior, it was tremendous. Now you got to replace all those guys, and here is yesterday Clayton White talking about the linebacker room. I apologize. Number 15.
Yes, I think get the players here first and foremost. We got some players here. We have some guys that we recruited. We have some guys that we recruited out of the portal, and just keep exposing them to what we do. I will say one thing about the guys that we had that left. Those are the same guys that was here in 22 and 23 as well. So they put a lot of good stuff on tape. And last year they put, a lot of good things on tape. Our guys can learn from our film from last year. They can learn from our practice film and how we practice. I think that's going to accelerate that room faster than what we think. But right now those guys are doing great. They're practicing hard, and they're doing the little things with Coach Robinson, Coach Dove up front on the inside. And I like what they're doing, and just got to continue it and just keep growing every single day.
There you go. Yep, it's to me that linebacker position. We can talk about Kyle Kennard, and you lose Tonka, and you lose Alex and or Boogie. Obviously Nicky Manwari, but you talk about replacing depth with production, production with depth. They do have more linebackers. That to me is one of the starting points, Preston, in this league.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I don't think if we gave them the truth serum, I think they thought Demetrius Knight was going to be good. I don't know if they knew that he was going to be.
I agree with you on that.
Good,
yeah.
Right. Kyle Kennard, I think they thought he was going to be solid. I don't know if they thought there was going to be that. And so that same thing could happen for some players this year. You're going to have some players play above and beyond what they think they are going to do, step up, perform, and do those things. And as a coach, this is an exciting / scary time of the year because as he said, He's looking around, and he doesn't see 21 roaming back there, free safety. He doesn't see 17 at making the calls that he can't make. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking as a coach, but also exciting because you get a chance to test yourself and see if you can actually develop some of these guys that you brought in. So to me, this is what spring practice is really about. Developing guys, trying to replace guys, going through some bumps and bruises. You would expect them not to be awesome just starting off because you have a lot of production that you're replacing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And for us, spring practice, maybe we'll make a commitment starting tomorrow to practice the linebacker from the transfer linebacker.
That's
Justin
correct.
O. I think they called him J.O. Maybe our spring practice is as well.
That's fine. I just get us a pronunciation guide and we'll work on it.
We had one. Remember, we had a sheet floating around
so
here.
If we get the pronunciation guide, we'll get to it. Again, we got him and Worry pretty well.
We'll get it.
I think we can get it.
Yeah, we've gotten Babalade pretty good.
Exactly. We can get these things. We just need some practice on them. Reps. We just need reps.
Spring
reps.
practice for us as well. We'll come back. J.C. Sherbert will join us. Lot to get to, whether it's basketball transfer portal, massive baseball game, or spring practice. We got you covered the next hour. Hope you're up and moving on a Tuesday morning. You're listening to Jen Jensen, Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner. It is the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. When we updated our kitchen, not really had planned to do that, but thanks to a flood, we ended up having to gut the entire kitchen, and they were incredibly helpful at CHW Cabinetry. Once we picked out everything, we got the photorealistic rendering that showed us what our kitchen looked like before it was even finished, and we were able to take the photo and say, oh, okay, now we can figure out what we want to do as far as backsplash and countertops and flooring and all of that. But kitchens, that's not all they do. Now, they can help you get those drawers in your pantry to make that even more functional, but they can help you in your bedroom closets or a bathroom closet. Maybe you need to create a home office workspace. They are very helpful in that respect as well. We had them put in a few more cabinets in a couple of other bathrooms. If you're looking to make updates in your home, visit chwcabinetry.com today or call them at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. We have a report of an accident, Clemson Road at near I-20, also Colonial Drive near Lorick Avenue. Highway 378 at I-77, an accident there. And I-20 westbound at Broad River Road. Be careful. We have a report of an accident there. Beautiful day today. Actually, it's going to be nice several days. Warm and breezy today, 78. Some breezy conditions tomorrow, 74. Thursday will be 71 before it pops back up to 79 on Friday. We'll see some sunshine and 80 for Saturday. Little cooler start for your morning, 45 right now on 107.5 The Game.
Up and at 'em. Tuesday morning as we are getting ready here. It develops kind of like the calm before the storm. So much going on coming up on starting Thursday, but we got a big baseball game tonight, but it all feels kind of like the calm before the storm, because I also want to remind you again, go and call Charwood this morning and get your team registered for our 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic. We got all kinds of stuff going on. We're partnering with Camp Discovery, who's part of our charity. They'll have their par 5 golf ball cannon out there. It hits long shots, Preston Thorne, longer than you, the golf ball cannon.
I would imagine so.
So come out, be a part of that. Again, call Charwood today, 803-755-2000 to get yourself registered. Again, tee time scheduled for roughly about 9:30 a.m. on Friday morning, March the 28th. Again, it's $400 per team. That's $100 per person. We'll be giving away a pair of baseball and football season tickets to 2 lucky winners. We're going to have some special guests out there. So a lot going on. Plan to be out there. Come join us, hang out. Again, call today and get registered. There's still spots available. Not many, but still some spots available. So go ahead, call Charwood, 803-755-2000 to do that. And as I mentioned, that'll be just part of the weekend. We'll be coming off another Thursday night of basketball. We'll be gearing up for a monster baseball series at Founders Park with South Carolina and Tennessee. And joining us now to talk about all these things, including spring practices he does each and every Tuesday, J.C. Sherbert of thebigspur.com. And my goodness, J.C., I was kind of hanging out, relaxing yesterday, trying to recover a little bit. I was a little under the weather. There was a lot of content to get to yesterday on the Big Spur between spring practice, the basketball portal, and baseball.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. That's that time of the year. There's recruiting taking place, too, in football because of the accelerated calendar. More so, these visits are more critical than maybe they used to be. So, lots going on in Gamecock land for sure. And this basketball portal thing, I think those that were wanting to see a whole new team next year are probably going to get their wish.
Yeah, let's get into it a little bit. I have not looked this morning at Jeff Borzillo to see if he has provided an update. As of last night, sometime, I think around 9 o'clock, Jeff had put out that 700 players, I think it was a little bit more than that, something like 714, but 700 players had entered the transfer portal. It's just a crazy time and place, not just at South Carolina, but across the board.
Yeah, and I've said it before, basketball, I mean, gosh, shoot, the Final Four team at South Carolina, people don't realize it. It's 6 new players on the team that year, which is a lot for a 13-man roster. It's almost half. So there's been transition in the sport. But back then, before we had the portal, it was graduate transfers would they were immediately eligible, or they'd have a ton of waivers that they put in, and then there were the guys that had to sit. But now everybody can just go anywhere, so it's not a surprise. I mean, basketball is different than football in a lot of ways. If you look, and I've been kind of crunching some stats. I had an article for members on the Big Spur. I went through the top 15 players in the SEC, according to like the first, second, third team All SEC. 6 of those were mid-major transfers. Everybody from Mark Sears started at Ohio U. Janai Broom started at Morehead State. He was actually teammates with Talon Cooper there in 2021-22. It truly has become a farm system, in basketball. People were worried about that in football. I think all it's done in football is help out the middle class in a lot of ways. You look at the SEC, Ole Miss, Missouri, Carolina, they've all raised the level, and Georgia and Bama have kind of come back to the pack a little bit. So I don't necessarily think it's become a farm system in football. But in basketball, when you kind of look at the results going on 4 years of this, it certainly has. And so the good news is when you look at Vanderbilt, you look at Missouri this season, even Oklahoma had kind of a bounce back year. Kentucky lost almost everybody off last year's roster and restocked it. You can restock things pretty quick if you make the right decisions. And there are enough players out there to do it. Especially when you have increased NIL resources, which South Carolina does this time. So, there's some hope there that it's a new team, a new day, a new era, a new outlook on Gamecock men's basketball once they finish putting this roster together.
Preston, how do you take what he just said? You said, JC, 6 of the top 15 players, the 3 first-team all-conference teams, 6 are transfers from lower level schools.
I don't know why it always stuck with me, but Frank Martin, even when way back then, he always had the adage about old, how old beats a lot of things in college basketball. And I think hearing that is that these older guys, even if they start off developing from mid-major levels, they get older, they get better, they get wiser, and they're able to execute in basketball a little bit better. So that's just what I think about. I wonder if you looked at the actual ages, how much does being older affect your ability to win in college basketball?
The other part to this, and maybe we'll circle back to it, it's going to be an ongoing story a little bit for us this week, is whom South Carolina is losing. And yesterday, Nick Pringle enters the transfer portal. He now joins Arden Conyers and Zach Davis, Austin Hero, also in the transfer portal as well. And, JC, I know you put out over the weekend there could be one other name that may follow them into the portal.
Yeah, I think, with Cam Scott, it's, up in the air as to whether or not he comes back. I certainly would be lying if I said I, definitely expect him back or definitely expect him in the portal. It's just a fluid situation. Beyond that, obviously Colin Murray-Boyles has a decision to make about the draft. But, there's some confidence that he may come back. Who knows with that? But and then you got to count the 4 incoming players, and then Jordan Butler and Federico and Ugasuk, I think are pretty safe bets to return. So, there's 7 when you 3 returners definitely, and then you got the 4 incoming. Miles Studi is going to try to get a waiver to come back. So, you're kind of looking with 15 scholarships this year at half, more than half the roster being new and, maybe as many as 8 portal guys, 7, 8 portal guys. I think the low end of that would be 5. So it's and I think with Pringle hitting the portal now and CMB sort of up in the air, you need everything. I mean, you need bigs, you need wings, you need point guards. Point guard's probably the top, priority, but they need everything. And so it's a clean slate. So we'll see what happens.
803-404-6100. Your guys' thoughts. There's a lot that goes into it now, right? It's not just playing time, NIL money or transactions or negotiations go into it. It is interesting to see, and JC will kind of hit on this very quickly. South Carolina financially? You start getting into these numbers here where you're saying 5, 6 portal guys, spreading the wealth around, and maybe also trying to, maybe at the same time, try to offer something to Colin Murray Boyles to be competitive, to see if he can bite and decides to stay home for one more year.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay. I think, I'm not – I guess I'm a little different than some folks. I look around and, you look at Florida this year. Their NIL was not – I mean, maybe in the mid part of the SEC, lower mid part, maybe 9th, 10th, something like that. They're a 1 seed. I think it's drastically more important for Lamont Paris to get players that fit what he likes to do. If you look at the games this year – a little bit better execution, a little bit better decision-making. And Carolina, even with a flawed team, is in the NCAA tournament. I think that's just critical with the style of coach that he is. You look back at the team that won 26 and went to the NCAA tournament, that team did what they were supposed to do. You had players that were bought in, older guys, like you said. And so I think that's the critical part of this. And will we know until maybe the season starts how well they fit? Because that's kind of an intangible thing, not really something you can tell with stats and things of that nature. So, but I think that's the thing. I mean, you guys that can shoot the three, that kind of deal, handle the ball, beat pressure, rebound, play defense, check all the boxes, man, because they need everything. But I think it's very critical that you do have guys, in South Carolina, it's unrealistic in the SEC, I think, to out-athlete people at South Carolina right now. I think you got to out-basketball them, and so you got to get guys that can do that.
803-404-6100. We'll get into a little baseball with you, JC. Where do you think the baseball program is at? I know that's a little more better suited for John Whittle, but we'll get your opinion on that this morning. Listen to what Paul Maneri has to say. Preston's ready to make a declaration for tonight. I'll let you respond to that when we come back. A lot to get to this morning. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, and joined as always on a Tuesday morning by JC Sherbert. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, and First Palmetto Bank. All right, March is almost wrapping up. How about that? How quickly are we moving through the year? And with March wrapping up, your summer plans may be affected by what you want to do. Do you want to move? Do you want to refinance? Do you want to upgrade? Do you want to downsize? Whatever it is you want to do, the very first thing you got to do is contact Jacob Crowder, the Mortgage Guru with First Palmetto Bank, and see what products, what interest rates, what loans are available to you and your family. You never know what is out there until you make the phone call, and Jacob Crowder has been in business for a long, long time, helping people just like you and I, helping them get the best interest rate, the best loan, the best down payment, the best mortgage payment. Call him today and find out what is available. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. He's the Mortgage Guru for a reason. Call today and learn more, and tell him Bill Gunner sent you.
Still have a report of the accident Clemson Road near I-20, also Colonial Drive near Lorick Avenue, I-20 westbound at Broad River Road, Raven Road at Faro, and 378 at I-77. So a few slowdowns there this morning to encounter. 78, warm and breezy. That is going to be nice today. 74, breezy at times tomorrow, and sunny. 71 on Thursday, back up to 79 for your Friday. But again, gonna need a jacket to start off your morning. It's currently 45 at 107.5 The Game.
Reminder, game tonight. We'll have coverage for you. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. Salcon traveling up to Charlotte to take on North Carolina. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. It'll be the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. And you got to go and sign up. Go to 1075thegame.com to register. The pot currently $250. So if you're registered, go to 1075thegame.com. If you're not, and we hit a grand slam, the Gamecocks hit a grand slam, and you're registered and we draw your name, you could win $250. It's the Palmetto Citizens Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. No grand slams this weekend. It was a rough weekend. Paul Maneri talked about it being a rough weekend. Here's what he had to say.
Well, obviously it was a very tough weekend for everybody. A lot of it had to do with just the quality of the Arkansas team. They're just as potent and powerful a college baseball team probably that I've ever coached against. It happened to be that the wind was galing out, and their physicality and their strength and the way they swung the bats. I mean, they're clearly one of the best teams in the country. And, we ran into a buzzsaw with them. The first night, we had a couple of bad things happen to us. Some of it was our own doing, and the game just got kind of out of hand. And then the game on Saturday was I don't know when I've ever seen anything like it. Jake gets the first two hitters out on 8 pitches and hits the third batter. They give up a base hit, then it gets 0-2 on the next guy. We're a pitch away from getting out of the inning with no runs. And, he hits a 3-run homer, and it just snowballed from there. And, Jake just couldn't get the last out, and we couldn't make a play for him. And, the game just, 8th spot in the first inning and just created a very difficult situation for us. Yesterday's game, the other thing that happened on Saturday was before the game, which you alluded to, Dylan Eskew was out in the bullpen doing some pitching drills during batting practice, and one of our players hit a ball out of the park in batting practice, and unfortunately it hit him in the head. And, so he started to have issues with that, as you might imagine, and we had to scratch him from the start on Sunday.
JC, that is, when things are going poorly, when a guy gets bonked in the head in warm-ups by your team hitting a home run.
Yeah, I mean, and that comes on the heels of the Oklahoma series, where all of a sudden a mighty gust of wind blows a ball out of the park to win the game in the top of the 10th for the Sooners. On top of what's been a good infield so far this year, just, not having it when Oklahoma tied it up, and that was disappointing. And then this past weekend, Paul Maneri mentioned something very interesting there, the word snowball. Things have been snowballing on this baseball team. I mean, there's rarely, in a lot of the games against good competition, there's been a lot of first inning struggles where teams get up 4, 5, 6 runs On Sunday, you're sitting there and, you got the bases loaded and you have pop-ups on the infield. This team hits into double plays like it's going out of style. Things just aren't good. And it's a tough 4-game week with North Carolina. North Carolina's been struggling a little bit, but they are a top 25 team. And then Tennessee, obviously, they're number one in the country, the defending national champs coming in here. And I don't want to say it gets easier after this, but, you got Arkansas, Tennessee back-to-back, and then you go on the road. A&M and Mississippi State are a combined 1-11 in the SEC. So they've been struggling as well. I think the feeling with at least A&M is they'll eventually figure it out. They got too many good players. And I think that, this baseball team this year, it's just been – they just haven't been able to get it going. No matter what happens. And so, that's in this sport, you can turn it. Sometimes things start to click. We've seen it in the pros, seen it in college. But right now, I don't know that there's a lot of hope other than, waiting around, waiting for something good to happen as opposed to bad things. And so that's kind of the outlook right now.
Let's hear Paul Maneri yesterday on with Jay and Elijah. And to JC's point, this is him talking about not letting the losses affect the team mentality.
I met with the team today, and, went over a lot of things with them, that would be internal, meant only for internal reasons, ways to improve and things that we need to do a lot better and so forth. It's my job to keep the guys in a positive frame of mind. You can't do anything about what's been done already. All you can do is look forward and get ready to go. And we've got great opportunities ahead of us. I mean, next weekend we have another one of the very top teams in the country coming in. And before that, we go up to North Carolina and play another top 10 teams. So, the schedule is definitely, challenging right now. And, we have some areas that, obviously we're going to, strive to improve in and, this year and beyond. And we just got to keep battling, got to keep the guys in an enthusiastic state of mind and believing that they can do things, and then they've got to go out and do them. We got to make more plays in the infield than we did this weekend. We've got to make some better pitches. We've got to come through with some clutch hits, which we haven't done in the last week. So, it's a difficult game to play, and I understand, people that follow the program get frustrated, when we don't do well, but it's all part of it. We've got to improve in some areas, which we'll do over the course of time through recruiting. And there's areas that we can improve upon this year with the personnel that we have, and we'll continue to work to do that. All we can do is just, keep working hard with the players and keep encouraging them and try to work on the things that we need to work on and go out there and get a good win, hopefully tomorrow night.
Preston, all right, that brings us to tonight. You heard what JC talked about. You heard what Coach Maneri talked about, and that brings us to tonight.
Biggest game of the year. Biggest game of the year, in my opinion. And I think why I say that, because they just got swept. I held off last week in saying that the Charleston game was the biggest game of the year because they were able to salvage a game from Oklahoma. But they just got swept in terrible fashion. In order for the fans, both casual and those who are really following, in order for everybody to feel as if they want to continue to buy in, have patience, all of those things, they're going to need to win some of these games against ranked opponents. And as you said, hey, North Carolina's struggling. We're struggling. What's a better time than to go get a victory and do it for your morale? You don't want to be on a 4-game skid going into play, or have it even worse, I think, having Tennessee coming into your hometown. You don't want to be in that situation.
JC, can you get on board with that?
Oh yeah, I think wins are always nice. And you get kind of and look, let's be honest. North Carolina's a team, college. No matter what the sport, you always want to beat them. They play that game in Charlotte every year. You always want to win it. And so you go out tonight and get a little momentum heading into the series with the Vols. And in baseball, anything can happen. I mean, Tennessee's been great this year. They still dropped a game to Alabama, 6-5 last week. So, you go in and win this one. Try to get to 2-2 on the week before sort of, I don't want to say lightens up, but you don't have to play the number 1 team in the country and the top 25 team in midweek to do it. We'll see. Brandon Sweeney is the announced starter for tonight. He's been closing. So we'll see if he tries his luck as a starter, how long he can go, and we'll see if they can get a win. This North Carolina game, sometimes it's not the best team that wins it. I've seen South Carolina go up there and get beat down, and they had a better team, and I've seen North Carolina have the better team and lose it. So it's just sort of one of those midweek games, and you go try your best to get it done and get some momentum.
803-404-6100. Gamecock football has just put out a little hype video or a little video. Impressive. The pads are coming on. I wonder how many takes it took to get this right. You'll have to look at the video on Twitter at Gamecock football. But we'll talk a little football. Get back to that Lenora Sellers discussion with J.C. Sherbert from Mike Shula yesterday on a running versus passing and all that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, and it's Tuesday morning, joined by J.C. Sherbert. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's that history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. So give them a phone call today. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are ready to help you with a maintenance contract. That number is 803-356-1919. You can also visit them online, midstateroofing.com. But give them a phone call because they're there. An on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee will be ready to take your phone call and help you with a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Doesn't matter if you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, Charleston, Greenville. Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. So make the phone call. 803-356-1919 and tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Still working the earlier tie-up Clemson Road near I-20, as well as Colonial Drive near Lorick Avenue. I-20 westbound at Broad River Road. Rabun at Faro and Highway 378 at I-77, all still in the works, so be cautious in those areas. 78, warm and breezy. Going to be a nice day today. 74 tomorrow, 71 for Thursday. Right now, it is jacket weather, 45 on 107.5 The Game.
Yeah, so I just think getting back to the last question as well, the processing that every quarterback has to do every single play. The faster you can process and make good decisions with the football, the less you may have to run with the football. Now as we've seen last year, he's really he's a pretty good runner. So we don't want to take that ability away from him, and we want to enhance that. But we want to do it on our own terms, not because, well, maybe I didn't quite understand the read, or I didn't see this, or I'm late on doing that. Now I have to run. We want him to run because he wants to, not because he has to. I think there were some times where we did both last year, and he did a great job with that. But obviously we want to have him upright and throwing the football. So he's not going to be a running back where he's carrying it, 25 times a game. So, and that's part of his growing process.
Those are the words of offensive coordinator Mike Shula yesterday, talking about the development of Lenora Sellers. And JC Preston and I went through this a little bit. Let your take when you hear Mike Shula bring that up and kind of talk about developing him both of as a passer and allowing him to continue to be a runner.
Well, yeah, I mean that's normal old quarterbacking. That's pretty standard. As far as the processing. And look, Lenora Sellers, you saw it as the season went on. He's not a normal guy where, you probably see the growth gradually. I mean, it was week to week. He got better and better and better and better and better. I also think he's the type of player that the more he plays, time off probably helps him rest up. But I think just playing consecutive weeks, really helps him. He made a big jump between Ole Miss and Alabama, a jump between Alabama and Oklahoma A&M, and so I think that that's just a normal part of it. And, you're more dangerous on offense when, you have a quarterback that can do, basically anything you want. So there's a lot that goes into that, too, as far as blocking. If you don't have the blocking, you got to get out of there and turn what could be, a lost yardage play or, God forbid, a turnover into positive yards and things like that. But, it's just your normal, development kind of thing, I think is what he was talking about. Mike Shula's been very good at developing quarterbacks throughout his career, so he's certainly got a track record, and I expect to see an improved Lenora Sellers next season.
Preston, go back to your day with Corey Jenkins. How did they try to handle him from what you remember in the spring to develop his all-around skill set?
That's a great question. I was playing defense.
Right.
So I was on the other side of the field. I don't know what they were trying to do.
I was going to think when y'all scrimmaged, you were like, oh, good, he's not running? All right, yeah. He's going to pass more? Okay.
Yeah, especially during that time. I was like, man, hold on, I'm third string right now. And here's the thing. It's not like the defensive guys are like, seems like we're putting in a new package for the Norris this year. I don't know. But what I do think is that was when you have a guy who tends to be a running first, you need to use the spring to develop some of his lagging skills, which might indicate that he needs to work on his ability to make his reads and do all those things in the field. So that doesn't scare or make me nervous for the spring. My question would be is he said this idea of Norris not being a running back and running 12, 25 times or whatever the case, but I believe Dow Loggins would have ran Lenoris 50 times against Clemson if given the opportunity, right? In some of these games where Lenoris took over the game, a lot of times it was Lenoris either A, deciding that I'm going to run, or B, I'm calling this running play for him. So what I'm wondering is if the opportunity presents itself, will Mike Shula make those calls and make Lenoris into a running back if he has to?
JC, I mean, do you foresee that when they get live, when the games actually matter? I know some people are kind of using the bowl game as an example, saying, well, Mike Shula maybe doesn't want him to run as much. I think that was, again, kind of a developmental thing. Did it cost him the game? Maybe so. There were other things that cost him the game as well. But, JC, do you foresee that being something that they just return to when the game's on the line?
Well, Clemson kind of sold out, sent a lot of pressure, and Lenoris ran past it. And then I don't know how many of those were called. I know the last touchdown was not, because Beamer actually mentioned that Nick Harbor was open on the play. But if a team's going to do that, then it makes sense for Lenoris just to take it and go. I mean, you sort of pick your poison with him, with all schedule plays and stuff. But certainly the A&M game, they were called runs and things of that nature. But the bowl game thing, it's unfortunate because I think whenever you lose a game, in college football, fans are looking for reasons and quite frankly looking for blame. And most of the time it's a coach. So. And Shula had mentioned that, they need to get Lenoris to stay with the play a little more. And, he certainly did not run when he probably could have. But that's on Sellers. He's got to find the sweet spot. And I almost think he overcompensated. Not that he was told, because there's no play calling aspect to it. As far as some people are like, well, the play calling was bad because Lenoris didn't run. Well, that's not a call. The coach doesn't sit there and go, hey, don't run under any circumstances, wait 7 seconds, and then drop it down for 3 yards. I mean, that's not a play. I mean, but so I don't think he was coached to not run. I think it's about finding the sweet spot, and that's something, he's going to have to work on is, knowing when to use his legs and know when to use his arms. I thought for a first-year starter he did a great job of it, but there's always room for improvement. I mean, and I think once he gets there, the offense, as long as certain aspects of it come along, it's going to be really probably difficult to stop, because you can stop everything traditionally, pass game, traditional run game and all that, and then he takes off for however many yards. That's we remember how potent Spurrier's offense was when Connor Shaw could run out on called pass plays for first downs. I think that's kind of the sweet spot that Lenoris needs to find, because he's a guy obviously that can house it on a running play, at any point. And he's a talented runner and as well as a passer. So that they have to. I don't think they need to, go away from him running the football. I think that's an X factor that any offense in the SEC would need, and I don't think that's the plan. I just think the plan is more, to get him more tuned in on the pass game, which I didn't think it was bad last year. I mean, look at the Missouri game. I mean, he won that game with his arm and escapability. So there's all kinds of different nuances with regards to his game that they're going to try to fine tune. And the better he fine-tunes them, the better he finds that sweet spot, the better season he's going to have.
We'll come back, get a little bit of recruiting information from JC, and wrap up hour number 2. You're listening to the early game. Reminder, go to our website, 1075thegame.com, and click on the contest tab and join up for our Gamecock Traditions Over-Under contest. That's right. You pick the over-under of the week correctly, and you could win a Gamecock Traditions gift card. So go to 1075thegame.com, click on the contest tab, and sign up for our Gamecock Traditions Over-Under contest. And if you pick the over-under correctly and we select you, good news. You get a Gamecock Traditions gift card, nothing like that. So make sure you go to our 1075 The Game website and sign up for our Gamecock Traditions Over-Under contest. Wrapping it up here with J.C. Sherbert of thebigspur.com. Again, go and check out a lot of great content. Yesterday, you had everything from spring ball to women's basketball to the NCAA transfer portal for men's basketball. You had baseball discussion with John Whittle. It was a lot going on. And, J.C., one thing we've left out here this morning is over Friday, South Carolina. One thing they've done under Shane Beamer that I don't know if I ever anticipated them doing, and I've never seen anything like this, they land another big-time offensive line prospect. You and I got really into recruiting with you back in about 2007 when we were traveling around, so that's almost 20 years. We'll round up a little bit. But going even back before that, the job that Lonnie Teasley and Greg Atkins and Shane Beamer and all the people involved are doing with this offensive line recruiting, absolutely phenomenal. And Zion Giles out of Carver's Bay down in Hemingway becomes another guy that they hope to add to the room when signing day comes.
Yeah, I love players in those small towns, especially east of Columbia, down toward the coast. I mean, those guys, they're sometimes they're raw, but they're usually really good athletes, and they end up panning out. There's a low bust rate, and he had offers from just about everybody: Georgia, Clemson, Auburn, Tennessee. I mean, you may name it, and the Gamecocks won it and got him in early. Bill, the modern recruiting era really began around 98, 99, 2000 when the old Rivals Network came online. That's when, you had the Rivals 100, 5-star, 4-star. It started getting real then. In that era, South Carolina's never recruited like this on the offensive line on paper. And it's been class after class after class, and they're not done. Darius Gray is a 5-star player out of Richmond, Virginia, had an unofficial visit last week, was blown away. Carolina's kind of been in the driver's seat for him for a while. He's got a lot of offers, but, a lot of other schools like Ohio State, Clemson, et cetera, Gamecocks are doing really well there. You look at the players they've brought in. And then the third part of it is the state has actually been producing a lot of big-time offensive line talent. And we haven't had that in South Carolina in a while. I mean, there's Brandon Shells and A.J. Cans and a player here or there. But as far as the back-to-back group, and this 2026 group's extremely good, the state's trending upward. And that's always helpful at the University of South Carolina when that in-state talent base cycles up at any position. You normally have receivers and defensive linemen. Other positions kind of come and go, but it's been beneficial for the Gamecocks that they've had the in-state base and then been able to go out and land guys both through the transfer portal and also in just traditional regular old recruiting to come in. So there's a lot of potential there, a lot of potential.
Zion Giles becomes the second offensive line member of the class, 6'5", 280, considered a 3-star prospect by 24/7 Sports, right there on the borderline of being a 4-star. You heard the offer list.
Yeah, for that rate, I don't know what they're doing there. He's a 4-star 24/7 Sports composite, so I consider him a blue chip prospect.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, if you look at this class, it's early, so the recruiting rankings are always, everybody's trying to figure them out. There's another kid there South Carolina's fighting like crazy to hold on to, and that's Peyton Dyer. JC, we got about a minute. This is another kid that appears to be a guy South Carolina got in on early. Georgia and Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp are telling him no speed limits in Athens. Come commit here, and you can do whatever. But that's a kid they're trying desperately to hold on to.
Yeah, and he's another tall-ish corner, 6'1". He fits everything there. So it'll be interesting to see if they can hold off the Dogs.
JC, we always appreciate it. Look forward to catching up with you next week. A lot to get into, more to get into, and we will. By the way, is your real quick, your bracket busted yet, or are you still in the game here? Nope. Okay. Well, JC done already left. All right. Can you just partied on out. All right, well,
You just ran him off. You're like, we're done. So he's like, peace out.
that would be a new one. Nah, good to have JC on as always there, and look forward to catching up with him next Tuesday. We'll get into a few more things next hour. Preston, is this a bad tournament?
I'm curious. I see this. The narrative seems like it's developing over the interweb, so whatever that's worth.
I think it was during the break that I heard maybe something. We'll get into this NCAA tournament from that and get you set for Thursday, Friday action. We'll also get into injuries last night. The injury to Juju Watkins there for Southern Cal. We'll talk a little bit about that and certainly the way it plays out, and more baseball talk coming up in hour number 3. Preston's got to put a final stamp on the biggest game of the year for Paul Maneri and this baseball team.
I just want to make sure everybody understands the importance of this particular game, how it affects us moving forward. And I was looking at these numbers, Bill. Maybe we should have paid more attention to Morehead State series.
Oh, all right. Well, we will do that. We will revisit that. Lot to get into. 1 hour to do it. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Well, good news. Earlier accidents have all been cleared, so that we will take that for your Tuesday morning. And we'll also take the forecast that is ahead. 78, warm and breezy today. Some breezy conditions tomorrow, 74 for the high, down to 71. On Thursday, back up to 79 for Friday. We're really not seeing any rain in the forecast until maybe Sunday. So good news there. But it is a jacket morning to get things going. 45 is where we're sitting right now on 107.5, The Game.
Eight a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and going. Thank you again to J.C. Sherbert for joining us there. We've covered a lot of different things here this morning. As yesterday was a busy day for South Carolina between kind of coming off of the women's game on Sunday where they advanced to their 11th consecutive NCAA Sweet 16. There's a lot covered there. Spring practice took their second practice of the spring yesterday. We got to hear from Mike Shula and Clayton White. Might get back into that. We were able to decipher a little bit of who Mike Shula might be and what he can say, so we got into that just a little bit. Also, baseball coming off of the series loss, the sweep at the hands of Arkansas, and they get ready now for a monster game tonight against North Carolina.
Biggest game of the year. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Why is it the biggest game of the year? Because they're just come off of a sweep that was, quite frankly, embarrassing. There's no other way to space it. You know, you talk about, I've read out the numbers. We've gone over that. We don't need to rehash that or relitigate that. But it was embarrassing. And if they want to be the team that we hoped that they were going to be, or that they all hope that they're going to be, they're going to need to win and get off of the cusp because, as everybody stated, Tennessee is coming to town. You don't want to be 0-4 rolling into this team coming into town. As Jamie said, maybe people starting to lose interest. This team comes in on a high, you're on a low. You go from getting swept one weekend to now you're 0-7. 1-10 against ranked opponents.
Yeah.
It's 1-11 against, on and on and on and on and on. So this game is a good, big game to get the slump busted, get that out of the way, and reset as a tough team comes into town this weekend.
So a lot there for South Carolina athletics. We've talked a lot about it. We'll get back into it. I want to remind you about our 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic, partnering up with Lexington County Gamecock Club this year. It'll be Friday, March the 28th at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. You can call Charwood today and sign up to secure your foursome. Each foursome is $400, $100 per person, 803-755-2000. We've received a text this morning. Sounds like we were down to just about 3 or 4 spots, 3 or 4. So you're going to want to call over this hour and make sure you secure your spot. 803-755-2000 is how you can do that. That'll be coming up on Friday. Interesting text here. Something that happened last night in the women's tournament could affect the men's basketball situation. What is that, you ask? Any agent worth his weight in gold will tell C&B, if what happened to Juju Watkins happens to you, you'll lose millions. So I'd get in the draft now and get your NBA money now.
That's a fair observation. I don't think he needed to see Juju get hurt to understand that, though. I think he's been clearly played on that. And I would say, this is my personal opinion, Preston, that if you're hoping or thinking or praying or wishing that CMB is going to be back next year, I'd say maybe you could spend that hope and energy somewhere else.
Yeah. Interesting observation on that. I'm with you. I think somebody probably had already informed him of that. You know, there was some rumors over the weekend of what he may have said when they were like, hey, want to play in the NIT? he might have been like, nah, good, man. Good.
Again, if you remember, this is a fair observation. I think this is a solid observation. People have eyes, they're looking around, but he didn't need to see Juju because just the weekend before that, he had saw Cooper Flagg go down on what turned out to not be a very serious ankle injury, but who knew what that was at that time. So when you're seeing these things happening, you're like, yeah, I don't think I want to take that chance.
803-404-6100, so that happened. But back to the men's tournament, we got all kinds of things kind of taking place here now as it pertains to this tournament. Some people, Preston, are saying it's not a very good tournament.
I'm hearing this starting to bubble up, and I guess it's based on what do we want out of the tournaments. Now, Bill, you're on record. You are on record as saying your perfect tournament is you want a couple of upsets early, but then you want to send them to the kids' table, let the big boys come over here eventually by now. We haven't had that. It's been essentially chalk for a majority of the tournament, and we've getting to the point where all of the big teams are playing, and now starting to hear the narrative of, oh, this is a bad tournament. What do you think?
All right, a couple of things. One, I think what people want are the mini buzzer beaters. I say mini, the multiple buzzer beaters. We've had one of those. Am I right on that? One that was Maryland and Maryland and Colorado State the other night. I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've had another like NCAA tournament moment. I think that's what people want. I'm okay with the upset. McNeese beating Clemson. I'd have been happy with that if it wasn't Clemson. The fact that it was Clemson made it a little bit better. Drake knocking off Missouri. Hey, I was all for that. Drake winning that ball game. Arkansas, it's an upset. Arkansas is a 10 seed. They took down St. John's. That was a really fun John Calipari, Rick Pitino showdown. If you didn't watch, Florida-Connecticut was an incredible game. I mean, I know it's not your Cinderella story, but if you dislike Dan Hurley, and maybe this morning if you start reading the news and you learn a bit more, maybe you dislike Dan Hurley a little bit more after what's going on now with Connecticut being investigated for maybe threatening action against a reporter who took a video of Dan Hurley. But that was an absolutely phenomenal game. You've had some really entertaining games. Alabama Robert Morris on Friday, I think, was a 9-point game. But if you really watched that game, it was phenomenal. BYU and Wisconsin was really good. I think you've had good games. Some of them have gotten away from teams at the very end. But by and large, I think you've had good games. To kind of go back through that, New Mexico is a 10 seed, knocked off your boy, Shaka Smart. There was the storyline there of Richard Pitino.
I hadn't even got a chance to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You know I had that one right.
Yeah, you were feeling that.
If you see my brackets, you already know I had that one right.
Yeah, I mean, has there been a ton of upsets? No, but then again, I also think that speaks to some of the parity of college basketball, where I don't know. Again, you know, I think it's different these days. I think it's been a good tournament. Has it been the best in the world? No. And to answer your question, yes, I'm pretty happy with. We had Colorado State a 12 seed, Drake an 11 seed, Arkansas still in it. They're a 10 seed. You had McNeese a 12 seed. They all won. I think by definition, the 9 seed Creighton. I know it's 9 and 8, but Creighton is a 9 seed that won. New Mexico again by definition, and most of them have politely removed themselves over the weekend. We thanked them for their service. We said thank you for Thursday, Friday. That was kind of neat. And now we go into a chalk section of the tournament that should feature. Look, I'm thrilled for this game coming up. I think this is Friday night, Auburn and Michigan. I'll be hitting up the old timey meat market, be grabbing steaks. I'll be sitting at the house. That one's going to be really good. Duke, Arizona is the late Thursday night game, 9:39 for that. I'm thrilled for that one. Houston and Purdue should be really fun. That would be a really late game on Friday night. Best game of all could be the early Thursday game, Florida, Maryland. That's going to be a phenomenal game, I believe. Texas Tech, Arkansas doesn't have the name brand apparel, and quite frankly, Kentucky, Tennessee should be great, but I don't like two conference teams playing each other. But
even in the Texas Tech, Arkansas, you have the Cal angle.
Yeah.
We have Cal
hanging around.
Somehow on a road to redemption, somehow.
Get them to the Elite Eight.
Some strangely enough on a road to redemption. Don't know how
he's 2 wins away from being in the Final Four and then just basically being able to tell Kentucky and whomever else, my way, knows exactly the way to do it. I think it's been a good tournament. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I like I said, it's just something that I've seen bubbling around, and I think you hit it dead on about the idea of there not being quote unquote buzzer beaters or the last minute heroics would make it not a good tournament. And I would state that maybe those were overstated maybe it didn't happen as much as people think that it happened.
Are you ready for my rant?
Let's do it.
And another thing, or I told you so.
Let's do it.
Because I see this from, look, I like college basketball. I watch probably more of it during the regular season than a lot of people. And I enjoy the sport. I do think it's lost a lot of its luster with the transfer portal and everything. But where you get that narrative is the people who only tune in at the beginning of March, and they're looking for the upsets. They're looking at their brackets going, I had this upset occurring. I had the 15 beating the 2. I want to see the buzzer beater. I want to see the 1 seed get scared into having to make a last-second shot.
But we've had that too. We've had 1 seeds get scared. Alabama
was a 2, and that's what I'm saying. That was a good game. But I think what you get is you get these people who don't really watch it, and then they're like, all right, this is a great time of year. Let me play hooky on Thursday and Friday. Let me go to an establishment and eat wings and hang out and watch it. Oh, the games are kind of average? It wasn't a good weekend. No, it was. It was a very good weekend. But I think that narrative comes from the people who are only here for the fun aspect of it.
That makes sense.
803-404-6100. Let's go out to the phone lines. Ray wants to weigh in this morning. Ray, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Hey, good conversation. But yeah, I think you guys have hit it because we don't have that little team that has that one upset game, at the buzzer or that type of thing. But I think the closest thing to to that type of team that everybody's looking for, even though they're not that type of team, but they are this year, is Arkansas. Because I tell you, I was at the CLA when we were up at one time 64-29. And I'm thinking, my goodness, to think that team got it together and is in the Sweet 16, I think is amazing. I know there's talent on that team, but I think right now Arkansas is that kind of team. And you're right, that game against Texas Tech, from a national game, it doesn't bring a whole lot. But in that part of the country, I guess it does because it's an old Southwest Conference type of game. But I'm really excited about the teams that are left, and kind of excited, watching Arkansas and see what they do from here on out because everything is like gravy now. I mean, it's kind of amazing that Cal got that team turned around the way he did. But thanks a lot, guys.
Appreciate the phone call. Yeah, look, again, you're not going to see, and I'm all for it. I'm here for it. I don't need to see George Mason or VCU or, Jen Butler in the Final Four. I need to see, let's look real quick because my Final Four is still intact. But I had Maryland and I had Michigan State. I believe Alabama, and I have I think my bracket is I think it's at my house now. But I'm perfectly happy with what we got, and I think if I could draw up the perfect Final Four, give me Kentucky. If I'm going to take Kentucky, then I need to take Duke. I don't want a conference matchup. I'm not telling you who I think is going to be there. I'm just telling you the matchups that Duke, Kentucky in the Final Four. Count me in for that. Give me Michigan State and give me Arkansas, Izzo and Calipari.
Even when saying,
I'm here for that.
We just got a text from our sales guy for Jeff, and it just said that, the basketball's been great. There hasn't been as many stories that people can get invested in. But even when you just say that, Duke, Cooper Flagg, I'm here for that. Kentucky, Mark Pope, kid comes back home. Cal, Izzo. We can make some stories out of this.
There's Cal and Izzo facing off. Cal on a heater in the NCAA after starting conference play 0-5.
Coach Izzo is coaching Jason Richardson's son 25 years later after they went to the Final Four. If we can't make one shining moment montage out of that with a sit down and crying and all that, we can make some stories out of it.
We need Sister Jean from Loyola. We need her.
We can do some things.
Sister Jean, you get 3 games max.
Oh.
I'll take her to the tournament with her. She can go to the tournament, but Loyola Chicago cannot.
Why not?
No, that's the point of my argument. I don't want the Cinderellas in the Final Four.
That's what makes the tournament great.
There's probably a lot of people on your side. I love the big names. Duke and Kentucky in a Final Four game. Give it to me.
That's lazy.
As a matter of fact, no, it's not lazy. It's good. That's quality. Did you enjoy seeing TCU in the national championship against Georgia a few years ago?
I think it's fun to cheer for that underdog, just to see that like they may not be able to do it all the way, but they have the potential to rise to the big moment.
Yeah,
One shining moment.
Maybe
One
I'm a
shining
curmudgeon
moment.
on this, but no, get out of here. Don't want your likes in my tournament. You get to hang out for the first 2 rounds, and then it's time for you to go home. 803-404-6100. We'll joke some more about this and get into some injuries. Obviously, the significant one last night. Also, get back out to the phone lines when we come back. It is the early game.
And out there on the highways, we do have one accident to make you aware of, more in the Pelion area. Highway 302 at Bushberry Road. Other accidents have been cleared, so that we will take. And we're also going to take the weather that's being delivered today. Warm and breezy, 78 for the high, overnight low of 49. Wednesday, 40. Let's try this again. 74 for the daytime high, but it's going to be actually a little bit chillier Wednesday night into Thursday morning, only about 42 as you're getting up in the morning. But by Thursday, 71 for the high, 79 on Friday, but it's holding kind of steady on this cooler morning. It's 45 currently on the early game.
Classic. Although I'll admit,
The ball is tipped, and there you are.
Yeah. Oh, I don't stay up to hear this though. The montage anymore.
Yeah, that's something that goes with age. That's something that goes with age. If you make it through the championship game, you're definitely not staying up to the one shining moment.
We might have to do that next week. When was the last time you stayed up for the full championship game on Monday night? Because we talked about it. Look, the women's side of things is heading towards, it looks like, and we're going to get into this in just a second, it looks like it's heading towards a great Final Four. The men's side of things, the people want the early rounds to be special, and the Final Four for the men's side of things, unless your team is in it, is anticlimactic. Like, it's just, but the women's side is totally different. 803-404-6100. Let's go out to the phone lines. Hank wants to weigh in this morning. Hank, how you doing? What's on your mind?
I'm doing fine, Bill. I wanted to get y'all's take on this. You know, there's been people talking about the men's tournament and the fact that basically all the power teams are left. And they was, talking about the NIL portal and how maybe it's because the players moving up. And God brought up something yesterday, and I want to get your take and Preston's take on it, Bill, saying that he said, but what about some of these teams, with this revenue sharing? You got these teams that are non-football schools. And what if a couple of basketball teams start to do like what North Carolina A&T did in track and basically pour all their money into that? So therefore, the NIL deals that they start to offer out for a team are more in the realm of what you would spend on a mid-major, or lower D1 football team. You could have some teams that are non-traditional brands that put together a powerhouse team because they're spending more money on basketball than spending like the 80% on football. Just kind of wanted to get y'all's take on it because people were saying that they were thinking that the mid-majors would totally go away with all the NIL and the transfer.
Yeah, Hank, that's
great point.
It's something that's to be decided, and it's something that, quite frankly, Jen, for a school like Butler, where football is not Butler, Villanova, St. John's.
Drake.
Yeah. We don't know how that's going to work. We don't really know how that's going to work. But he's got a point where you look at let's just use Kentucky and North Carolina. Where do they want to put their revenue sharing money?
Yep.
What is important to them? Georgia and Alabama. Sorry, Alabama basketball. Georgia basketball. That was cool that you were in that tournament. That's not where our money's going. We don't know enough, I think, about how this is going to play out. It seems to evolve each and every day. But Preston and Jen, because Jen, he's right. Like in 5 years from now, if all this kind of stays true, yeah, you could see really the Northeast, Butler, St. John's, Villanova, Xavier, just lost their coach, Seton Hall. I mean, really most of the Big East, Connecticut already does dominate. But you could say Butler goes, we're putting $20 million in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And look, Butler's got a great basketball tradition, and they're fine.
Yeah, and they've upgraded facilities a few years back, but there's a lot that could be invested in that and really make it more of a powerhouse. I'm a little frustrated with, Thad right now and his coaching, but I digress.
So, well, we'll see. I mean, but a very good phone call there.
Oh, you mean athletic departments are going to have to act like everybody else and have a budget and
Pretty much.
and make a priority?
Supposedly.
Oh man,
Supposedly. Well,
We are not given free Uncrustables, or there's going to be a limit.
tough. They're going to have a budget. But yeah, I think, Hank, that's a great point, and I've seen that sort of bubbling around. You'll see teams maybe say, maybe we should emphasize this a little bit more than that, or a spread. And as you said also, Bill, this is to be determined because, to be quite honest, we're going under the assumption that this thing is going to pass and go into play. There's still steps that need to be taken.
Yeah, very true. 803-404-6100. So last night, the injury bug bites Southern Cal, and that does take away a little bit from the women's tournament, just from the standpoint. I think a lot of us, you and I last year after we finished off Iowa, we removed them from being the newest villain. We took dead aim, I feel like, on Southern Cal.
Yeah, well, we knew somebody was coming for the throne. We knew somebody else was coming, and the USC thing was something that was of interest to us. And when you say the injury bug, the injury, what's bigger than a bug? Lion, shark. It's done for the Trojans. You know what I'm saying? Like, we suffered a major injury earlier in the year. Speaking of Ashlyn Watkins, earlier in the season, that was pretty tough. The team had to figure out ways to get through it. But as good as Ashlyn was, she was nowhere near the player of impact that Juju was for that USC team. And so, unfortunate. It's a part of the game. It's extremely unfortunate. But that team's done. They might advance. They might win one more game, but there's not going to be win one for the Gipper or, that's not happening. Their best player by a long margin, team leader, statistical leader, lost the game. And so it's unfortunate for those women, those fans, and all those teams, but it's part of the game.
They won. Southern Cal crushed Mississippi State last night, 96-59. But one other just note about this, Juju Watkins, South Carolina member, is supposed to go to L.A. I forget the date. It's in November. I don't know, it's going to be less than 8 months from now. I know people are doing miraculous things recovering from ACLs. What is it? Used to be if you tore an ACL 25 years ago, Preston, what you were done for basically about 18 months, so to speak. People are returning from these things quickly, but not only does the NCAA tournament lose a little bit here with one of its star players and Juju Watkins being out. By the way, if you've seen the video, no word on whether this was Jaden Daniels' mother who pulled this. Unfortunately,
that's his mother.
No, I meant if she's the one that
put the juju on her. Yeah, that's a great video too. Yeah.
But if you haven't seen it, look it up. But yeah, the tournament loses a little bit, and then we, South Carolina, because we were supposed to play them again. That's probably a little less than 8 months. Maybe we don't get that Juju Watkins, Malaysia Fulwali, or Joyce Edwards matchup that we were hoping we'd get.
That's something that we were hoping for, and really that was what the whole marketing plan was based on. Is that this major player and these major players going to see. So we'll see how that develops. But as far as the tournament here and now, it's an unfortunate part of the game. And then you look at the board and you also say,
Well, here's where things evolved and changed. I think we all looked at Southern Cal and we were like, you're the villain. You're the big. We've vanquished LSU. We've vanquished Connecticut. We didn't see UCLA coming.
Right.
And UCLA smacked us around. And I instantly, watching that game back in November, went, I think we should be more worried about UCLA than we should. I know what UConn did. I totally get it. But, yeah, I've actually looked at UCLA more as the team that I'm like, I don't know about those girls.
Well, from a strategical standpoint, with the injury to Ashlyn Watkins and UCLA having Lauren Betts, that's somebody you want to look at. But also, I guess for Juju, there is precedent here because Paige Beckers tore her ACL. She's made a comeback. She got hurt twice, actually, had an ACL and a knee sprain. So she had to miss significant parts of her season. She's returned and is playing well for UConn. So wishing well for Juju. There is a precedent there. It's just unfortunate because this was all building to what was going to be, I think, a very fun crescendo in the women's tournament.
803-404-6100. I see you on the phone lines. We only got about a minute left. We'll come back and get to you and get a few more thoughts on the tournament. And Preston's got to make sure his proclamation is stated properly on tonight's baseball game against North Carolina. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that proven history that is your assurance that their team will get the job done with proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. Now, they say if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. I kind of encourage you, don't even let that leak happen. Call Mid-State Roofing today and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Contact Mid-State Roofing today. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. And at Mid-State Roofing, they design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee that'll keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. Give them a phone call. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-356-1919.
And this morning, we are looking at several accidents that have popped up recently. Faro Road at Hardscrabble Road, also Faro at Longtown. I-26 westbound there at Augusta Highway, exit 111. Juniper Springs Road near Two Notch Road. Downtown Columbia, we're looking at Main Street near College. And one other accident to make you aware of, and that's Morning Hill Drive at Bush River Road. So things definitely picked up. Be careful out there if you would. 78 today. It's going to be warm and breezy. The breeze continues tomorrow, 74. And on Thursday, 71 before we bump back up to about 79 to round out the week on Friday. That cooler start still continues. It's currently 45 with some sunshine on 107.5 The Game.
.35 as we roll along here, starting to close things down on a Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. Again, want to remind you, baseball tonight. We'll talk about that in just a minute. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch right here, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And Thursday night, we'll have Carolina Calls with Coach Paul Maneri right here, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach, and that'll be taking place at 6 o'clock. 803-404-6100. Back to the phone lines we go. Thomas wants to weigh in on Gamecock basketball this morning. Thomas, how you doing? What's on your mind?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to point out was this is why Dawn Staley recruits the way she does. So we don't fall into the USC category. You have a star player go down, it don't hurt the team. And, you know, if you heard that young lady from Maryland who made that quote, last year they only lost by 4 points, and that's when the team had Camilla Cardoza and Ashley Watkins. So, of course, it's supposed to be an easy time this time without those two. So ask Maryland how that work out for them. That's why we have a team it's built. If you lose somebody, we still got 13 others to throw at you. And I'll hang up the list.
Yeah, I mean, but that's how everybody wants to recruit. I mean, I get it, but Dawn is in a league that only really, Nick Saban at Alabama? They could stack 5 stars. Kirby has done that. That's what everybody wants to do, right?
Yeah, but everybody may not have the skills and ability to do that and create the culture around that happens for. Yes, to that point, if you can pick any player off of this particular iteration of the Gamecock women's team, if they were to unfortunately get hurt, the team would be able to move forward because they are built with depth. That being said, when you're looking around, when you're talking about tournaments and stories and all of that stuff, Juju Watkins was a huge part of why this tournament was going to be special. Yep. Why eyes were going to be tuned in, because she's on TV. She has a pleasant personality. She's somebody that people want to see win. She has a distinguished look. All of the things that make somebody a superstar, and they were counting on that star power. The Gamecock women's team as a whole is the draw, and it's probably even more so Coach Staley than the actual team. So there's all types of reasons why, but to the caller's point, yes, any one injury is not going to be as devastating to this team as it was to that other team.
Tell you what, Jen, let's switch to some baseball here. Preston's got to make his proclamation, but this is Paul Maneri clip number 24. South Carolina's got to be better. Preston's been saying it this morning, and he's about to make his big proclamation, but here is Paul Maneri yesterday with Jay and Elijah. South Carolina needing to be better.
I thought Jarvis on short notice, did a very credible job and kept us in the game. And we actually had a 2-0 lead. They tied it up. And then, it was a good ball game, and they scored a couple runs. We got a clutch hit finally and tied the score. And unfortunately, we couldn't push across the runs. And, we brought in the guy that's been closing games for us, and he 4-pitch walk, a home run, and another hit, and, got him out of there, and everything snowballed from there. So it was just a really, really tough weekend. And, unfortunately, these things happen sometimes. You never expect them to, but, Arkansas hasn't lost at home. I think they're like 20-0 at home. So, they're 20-0 for a reason. They're really good. They very powerful lineup, very good arms, and our kids did the best they could, but we've got to improve from here. There's no question about that. We instead of taking the day off today, we practice today, and we'll take off the mandatory 1 day a week on Wednesday, and just try to get the guys mentally back to where we need to be and have a little practice and get ready for North Carolina tomorrow.
All right, and that leads us to tonight again, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Reminder, go to 1075thegame.com to register. It is the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway, and if a Gamecock batter hits a Grand Slam tonight, you could win all the cash in the pot $250. Preston Thorne.
Well, we'll see if they need it or not. And I've said it at 6. I said it to 7. I said it yesterday. This is the biggest game of the season for the Gamecock baseball program, for everybody associated with the Gamecock baseball program. Paul Maneri, Monty Lee, Jeremiah Donati, Ray whoever. Because you just got swept in a very bad weekend, embarrassing weekend. And I hope they should feel embarrassed. Like,
right.
If they don't feel embarrassed, then we're having a whole nother conversation.
True.
Right? So they should feel embarrassed about the results of this past weekend. You're 0-3. You're 1-8 versus ranked opponents. You have another opportunity to face a ranked opponent who JC shared is struggling a little bit. So we're equal. Get a win here. Wipe the slate clean. Get ready for this big team that's coming into town next weekend. You lose this game, you don't feel confident moving into that team coming into your town, and you're potentially on a very long slide.
Yeah, you're right about that. You lose this one, this would actually make it, since you lost the Oklahoma game, they've lost 4 of their last 5. If you want to go back, 5 of their last 7. Is that right? Yep, 5 of their last 7. This would make it, you've lost 6 out of your last 8 with the number 1 team in the country coming to town.
I don't care who you are. There's no way you're going to be like, oh, we're going to get this one now. You start to feel it.
Big game tonight. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. We will have it for you right here on 107.5 The Game. Come back, put a bow on the show. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for the Egton Law Firm. We are officially into tax season, and if you have received one of those mean, nasty notices from the IRS, you or your business could be in some trouble, and you don't want that to happen. You need to contact John Egton and his team. It all starts with a free consultation, 803-771-9800. They have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good, but time is of the essence. You need to give them a phone call. And that number again, 803-771-9800. Let them help you navigate the IRS maze. With proven local solutions, they've helped thousands of families and businesses just like you navigate what the IRS is trying to do to you. So call today and get that free consultation. 803-771-9800. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Final segment of the show, and of course, want to remind you about our 107.5 The Game golf tournament coming up this Friday. Just a few spots left, so you need to call ASAP, 803-755-2000. It's 803-755-2000. There ain't many left at all, so you need to make that phone call right now and reserve your foursome at Charwood Golf Club out in West Columbia. Again, we got a lot going on. We'll have some breakfast sausage. Hardee's will be providing more breakfast. We'll have Saki's Wine and Spirits with the early morning beverages. Firehouse Subs providing lunch. Tea time set for about 9:30. Give or take a few minutes, since I'll be doing the emceeing. And we will also get you going with some season tickets for baseball and football tickets to 2 lucky winners. So call today and get registered, 803-755-2000. Again, that'll be this Friday out at Charwood. Preston and I will be out there broadcasting live. Actually, so will the rest of the station until 3 o'clock. So make plans to come and join us this coming Friday. Let's go back out to the phone lines. Ty wants to weigh in this morning. Ty, how you doing? What's on your mind?
What's up, guys?
Go
on. I got a comment and a question. It's 2 of them. I'll go ahead and say one's about the basketball girls team, the other's about the baseball team. I'm mad that Juju got hurt watching last night because I think it robbed us of them playing Connecticut. I think that would have been a great matchup. Either way it went, passing of the torch or Becker's actually solidifying her reign. And I think that whoever wins that matchup will probably be the best team to actually see USC in the finals. But I think it's going to be UConn and USC at the end. Now, with the baseball team, we got rid of the grocery pickers, and then we brought in a new chef. And then the food still tastes funny, but everybody keep wanting to blame the chef. When are we going to stop blaming the players or holding the players more to the fire? Because when the football season hit, they try to bench the quarterback every opportunity they got for any mistake, but I don't hear nobody, fans or nobody really coming out and holding the players more accountable. It's more of they holding the manager, and I heard somebody just said the athletic director and this and that. What about the players? Because they've been the same consistent players for the last 4 to 5 years, and we've been getting, or USC has been getting the same results. I just want to get y'all opinion on that. That's all I have.
Appreciate it, Ty. Great call as always. I think you're onto something. Maybe they have been shielded a lot by people not being enamored with Mark Kingston as a coach, and that kind of shielded the players. And then you have a new coach in. I do think you might be onto something. If we was listening to Coach Maneri talk just in the last segment, he said he slid it in very, very slickly, but he said something along the lines, we're going to have to improve, and we'll do that by recruiting in the future. He slid that in, and he kept it moving, but that was something that Bill and I both perked on. Ty, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, I mean, the players are accountable, but if we're being honest, they're just not as good as Tennessee and Arkansas and Clemson. And, I mean, Preston, in our day, if I was an offensive lineman and you were a defensive lineman and I had to – we are who we are and I had to block you, is it my fault I can't do it? Is 5'7", 140 fair against 6 foot, 290?
There's something to that, yes. However, we can't – I hear that, but we can't get there until they take care of the things that they need to take care of, i.e. not making errors in the field, covering bases when they're supposed to, et cetera, et cetera. When I feel like they're maxing out their talent and they just hit a wall, we're good. But I don't think we've gotten to that point yet.
I mean, isn't it? I think the famous Lou Holtz line is probably about right. The advice he was given, write 2 letters. When you have a losing season, open the first one and it says blame the previous coach. When you have another losing season, open the other one and write 2 letters.
That guy's ridiculous, man. He has so many of those types of things. But Ty, I think you're right. It is. That's something I do want to explore a little bit further.
Okay.
That's something worth exploring a little bit further because they have been recruited, they have been played, they're on the same concepts of NIL that the grace that we don't necessarily give maybe other athletes. Maybe the baseball players have been given a little bit of a cover because we just didn't like the previous manager.
Yeah, and I think he's the one getting the brunt of it now because they're saying, well, wait, you didn't leave the groceries for the new coach to cook. So that's what I'm saying. Blame the previous guy. That doesn't work. Write 2 letters. 803-404-6100. All right, what do you got?
In honor of Transfer Portal Tuesday, you were bringing up that there was a big man from Butler who's going to be transferring again. Is that what you were stating?
I can't. Being on X/Twitter right now, it is. I mean, granted, again, I follow a lot of college basketball people. So, yes, a big man from Xavier is transferring. He spent, I believe it was 3 years at Pitt, 1 year at Oklahoma, and will now be leaving Xavier. He's on the what was the kid Frank had his final year? Eric, who was at Washington, Wichita, South Carolina, and went to West Virginia.
Well, Bill, we have a blast from the past, and it just came up to me, and you may be aware of this. Are you aware of where TJ Finley is going to be spending his last year playing college football?
All right, let's follow TJ Finley. Let's see if I can get this correctly.
Okay.
LSU.
Which, again, I don't think we would be paying attention to TJ Finley unless that happened to us.
Auburn.
Yes.
I believe it was then Western Kentucky.
No.
Texas State then.
Yes.
Then Western Kentucky.
Wow.
I followed this. And no, I do not know the number 5.
The Tulane Green Wave.
Get him on the schedule. Let's see if we can get him see if we get Tulane.
Hey, we open his career up. Let's finish him out. TJ Finley.
5 schools. Yeah, I hate I didn't nail that the first time.
When you look at the profile on the Tulane media guide, 6'7", big arm.
Oh, so he's grown. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you to J.C. Sherbert. We'll do it all again tomorrow.
Appreciate y'all.
Jen's got a day or 2 off. Wish her well. Tweet at her, and Jen, we'll see you on Friday. Okay.
Yes, all is good.
Out. Yes.
See y'all later.
Y'all take care.